Greetings, family. Welcome back to my channel. I want to respond to a video that's recently been released of President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa meeting with Donald Trump. The meeting began with Donald Trump and Cyril Ramaphosa exchanging pleasantries, speaking about some of the matters that are affecting the United States, some of the policy changes that America is undertaking. Cyril Ramaphosa thanked Donald Trump for assisting during COVID-19 with some respirators, and he also thanked America for its intervention in some of the conflicts on the continent of Africa. But one aspect of this meeting to me was very disappointing. And during the meeting, it seems to me that the whole purpose of this meeting was to throw Julius Malema and the EFF under the bus. The entire purpose of this meeting was meant to cast Julius Malema and the economic freedom fighters as being undesirables, as being rabble rousers. And they intentionally used various comments that were made. They basically made like a highlight reel of some of the most extreme sounding comments and basically tried to cast him as a person calling for the deaths of white South Africans. But let me let you all hear a brief portion of this whole thing. Because what Donald Trump did was he actually had a projector and they played a mini documentary. 1 second.
No, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn that? I can show you a couple of things. Okay. Let me see turn the light.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. The banner of DJ is PE is a white man. So these people really want to hit them hard. Go after a white man. They think a talent will pay because you have touched a white man. Not because Pajama and Suli will not be touched. They will be touched, no one. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness. Shoot, kill, no stop. Kill the blue one, the bomber. Kill the blue one, the bomber. Shoot to kill, no stop. Kill the blue one, the bomber.
And at the end of the chant, it happens to say the farmer. It sounds like he's saying the farmer, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, Donald Trump is making the case that white farmers have been killed. He has a stock of different reports that they printed from the internet to basically identify some cases of farmers being killed in South Africa. And this video was basically a highlight reel of Julius Malema repeating the chant, "Kiss the Boer," which references shoot to kill and so on and so forth. But like I said, it's really a relic from the Apartheid era. It was a rallying chant for rebel forces who were actually in a military-style conflict with the Boer. So obviously it was about rallying them rather than some national policy of genocidal behavior. It wasn't about genocide. The actual genocide was being beset on Black Africa by basically an invasive force that intended to enforce a caste system and permanently rule over Black people. Okay, and so the chant itself has been used repeatedly to try and prosecute Julius Malema. I think he recently had a court case, um, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, regarding his use of the chant. Because I think people have now tried to characterize it as being some sort of hate speech, right? And like I said, we all know the origin of it. So if a person was to invoke it in terms of just highlighting it, that shouldn't necessarily mean that he's actually calling for violence against white people. He's not calling for violence against Afrikaners or the Boers, as they are known. Okay, but it seems to me that the meeting was designed to make Julius Malema the scapegoat. Okay, these are not the only statements that Julius Malema makes. Julius Malema has social programs. Julius Malema has a political party. They have a platform. They're speaking about the upliftment of South Africa, and they're also trying to become the majority government to instill or to actually bring about the changes that uh, their version of development entails. But as Cyril Ramaphosa said in this meeting, all voices are actually supposed to be respected. And so, in the political system of South Africa, they have multiple parties, and all of these parties must have their voices heard, regardless of what their voice might entail. Okay, and so even though he said this, it seems to me that he allowed Donald Trump to make Julius Malema the scapegoat, and it's both politically expedient for him to do so, and it also provides him a cover so he can portray himself as being a moderate individual, and Julius Malema is the extremist, right? The reason why South African farmers are primarily white South Africans or predominantly white South Africans is because they have actually used apartheid to claim the majority of the arable farmland, right? As the owners of the arable farmland, they were the principal suppliers of produce. They have been the principal suppliers of produce for decades because they actually controlled the majority of the arable farmland. And so, by them controlling this vital part of the country, they have been depriving the rightful owners of this property of being a part of this industry, of being the principal players in this industry, right? So I think it's disingenuous to portray the South African government as being insensitive or racist because they are simply taking back their own property from these individuals, right? This is tantamount to the Germans or the Nazi Germans claiming all of the property owned by Jews during the Holocaust. And after the toppling of the Nazi regime, to have these individuals still own these mansions and these properties owned by the Jews, right? It would be nonsensical. For example, if a Nazi soldier had taken a mansion owned by a wealthy Jewish German person and still owned this property after Hitler was expelled or killed, right? So this is all I'm saying. The apartheid regime was essentially the Nazi regime of South Africa. These people were the Nazis of South Africa at a particular time. Some of them still behave that way today. But to have the Nazis of South Africa still own the property that they took during South Africa's Holocaust, which was apartheid, is completely ridiculous. And so this is what I wanted to impress on my subscribers tonight, because it became even more clear as this interview went on that this was about defaming the EFF and Julius Malema. Cyril Ramaphosa enlisted the aid of a member of the DA political party, which is a white South African, to come along with him on this trip. And it was a skillful use of this person because he's a white individual, so they can't make the case that he is anti-white. He came there with not only a white South African, but a white South African that's from an opposition party. But even this individual said he joined with Cyril Ramaphosa to make sure that Julius Malema never gains power, right? And he made the whole spectacle of making Julius Malema seem like some kind of cancer on society, when Julius Malema is one of the most patriotic, nationalistic African leaders of this era. Even Cyril Ramaphosa has had to show him respect for his ability to galvanize the people and for actually being a nationalistic person. But although his message may be delivered in a way that could be considered belligerent by some people, he is only doing so as a response to what our African people have endured over a period of time. Okay, and so even one of President Trump's South African friends spoke up, and he pointed at the screen with the image of Julius Malema and basically vowed that he was against him since the 1990s, and he never stopped being against Julius Malema. So it was really a farce. It was a spectacle that made absolutely no sense. But in my opinion, Julius Malema has been used as the fall guy, and it seems to me that his comrade, his um, fellow South African, has used him as a scapegoat. I don't know if there's any method to the madness that is being employed by the South African president, but it seems to me that he was all too willing to allow Donald Trump to focus on Julius Malema, right? Now, I understand that as the leader of a nation, he has to think of millions of people and their fates. The whole purpose of his visit was to quell the fears of America that there was some kind of genocidal behavior or racist activity against white South Africans, right? It seems like they tried to blindside him with this highlight reel and with these reports that they printed to speak about. All right, but family, you can watch the footage for yourself. You can see what took place. But in my view, family, it was not a good look. The optics of it was very wrong. You have a black South African leader who came there and basically joined in with a chorus of anti-Julius Malema commentary, right? Is it a betrayal? Did, did, did Cyril Ramaphosa betray Julius Malema? Did he have a cause for distancing himself from his fellow South African brother? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all these dynamics. One love.